Abbiamo con noi chiaramente un ospite che di India ci può spiegare tutto, Mr. Abhishek Somany, CEO di Somany Ceramics, il secondo produttore indiano per volumi e capacità produttiva, reduce da un investimento importante, la più grande espansione produttiva della sua storia recente, 3 nuove linee avviate a maggio, che portano la capacità produttiva a 74 milioni di metri quadrati e Mister Somany ci racconta che cos'è cambiato, com'è cambiata la situazione dell'industria ceramica indiana a partire da gennaio del 2022.
Thank you first of all for having me. I think in 22, like the other speaker said, the biggest problem has been energy costs. India has been lucky. We have stabilized our energy costs. It's nowhere close to what it is in Europe. The market is growing. We've come out of a 10-year recession in real estate market, so the real estate is going both residential and commercial, mostly in the mid-income housing. So the average realization of tile in India is still extremely low. So you would have a sold tile to the consumer on an average of about €3, $3 per square meter. In contrast, ours would be obviously higher, but the average producer would be selling at about €3, $3 per square meter. The production is yes 2.5 billion or 2.3 billion. We're not producing all of it. We've been at about 75% capacity utilization over the last couple of years. This year has been the same, mostly due to, again, the energy costs. But the export is a green shoot. There's been 3 things which have happened post the pandemic. Of course, India had become very efficient in terms of exports, even pre-pandemic. But I think what has really accelerated the export growth is the shutdown of China. One can't go into China and come out. So a lot of the traders across the world are hedging their shelf to anywhere but China. So if there were 100 units bought from China, at least 50 are being bought from elsewhere in the world, primarily because of language barriers and communication problems between the rest of the world and China. That's one. B, there's been also a situation where a lot of countries have put an anti-dumping on China. So that's given in India a huge impetus. India is extremely competitive. I think the third one is that the flexibility what India shows in making smaller lots and efficiently, unlike in China, which is, I would go to the extent of saying that their economies of scales have become their diseconomies. And that's worked in favor of India. So I believe India's export by 2023 would 50% of the produce, whatever the capacity utilization is, would be exported. We're currently sitting at about 40%. So it's going to become a largely export-oriented nation. That's just scratching the surface. We still don't produce a lot of the other products which can get exported. Example, facade tiles, pavement tiles, etc. So these are just basic tiles of which 50% will get exported. So a lot of headroom for India going forward.
Sappiamo che il governo indiano sta facendo una politica molto di sostegno al mondo imprenditoriale della manifattura. Ci sono misure come il PLI, il Production Linked Incentives, o altre misure del governo per sostenere l'edilizia abitativa. Che impatto stanno avendo queste misure del governo sulla manifattura indiana e sul vostro settore in particolare?
So the PLI scheme has not been granted to the ceramic industry.
No.
So that's something which we look forward to, but I doubt that would happen because they've already granted it to the number of industries. Mostly it's been tech and a lot of electronic industries. That's where the PLI scheme has been. Yes, the biggest change in India in the last 5 years has been the introduction of GST. So that's leveled out, or rather brought everybody on level playing fields. there is still a substantial amount of Indian industry which still manages to evade certain taxes, but that's also getting corrected over the years, and it will only get better. So that is something which is a big one from the government. But the other initiatives which the government is very aggressively taking is free trade agreements. We've seen one with UAE recently, and I believe that there are some more in the offing in the rest of the world. Specifically, if we talk about one which should happen in the next couple of months or maybe next quarter, would be Australia. So we would have a free trade agreement with Australia. So that's going to only benefit imports. If you see the rupee dollar parity, that also is in the favor of exports. So I think those are the initiatives taken by the government. One big initiative which we are looking forward and we're urging the government to do, which is nothing to do with our industry but is directly related to the ceramic tile or rather building material industry, is to give the real estate sector an industrial status. What I mean by that is currently the real estate sector cannot borrow as efficiently as the industrial sector. So if my borrowing cost is, let's say, for argument's sake, let's say it's 5%, the real estate sector cannot borrow from the bank at the same rate, is generally 50 to 75% more than what the industrial borrowing rate is. So if they do that, then a lot of the urbanization will happen. And as you have repeatedly said that it's 1.4 billion people, just to give you certain statistics, about 370 million people in India are urbanized. In any nation of our size, it should be at least 45% of the nation urbanized, which means in the next 10 years, we will have at least 140 to 150 million people getting urbanized. That's the growth story.
That's the great story. Somany Ceramics, avete appena concluso un importante progetto di investimento produttivo. Su quali altri temi state lavorando per costruire il vostro futuro a medio e lungo termine?
Yes, we have concluded a large investment at 12 million square meters. Now the question is to sell the product.
That's good.
That's going to be a tough one, but as we speak, we've announced another 4 million square meters of another plant, the first continua for Somany. So we've ordered that, and that should be firing sometime next quarter, second quarter next year. In the meantime, we're also we've just doubled our faucet manufacturing from, so that's been doubled as we speak. We're also focusing very heavily on adhesives. Tile adhesives is something which is new to us. It started only a couple of years ago. What is unique for us is that we are manufacturing it from tile waste. So 100% of our tile waste goes into adhesives.
They are still announcing our Tecna awards at 5 o'clock. In fact, it's 4:45. We are in time. And in time, I think we would need to also expand our sanitary ware facility. So a lot of growth going forward. Thank you, Mr. Somany.